Greetings, friends! Live from Retro Central, my name is Peter, and this is Consolation episode number 2. As always, I thank you very much for taking the time to watch today. I hope that you enjoy what you're about to see. Let's hop back in the time machine once again, because after all, that's pretty much what we do here in this series. We're going to take a trip back to the late 1980s and through the first half of the 1990s. This was when I was between 17 and 23 years of age. Back then, although I had a Commodore 64 at the time, getting online was something that I just wasn't doing. Although there was an opportunity to go on to services like CompuServe at the time, I didn't have a modem. And even if I did, I don't think that my mom would have gone for me jumping online, aka Matthew Broderick and War Games. So in order to get information about video games back at that time, the best way for me to do so was to buy video game magazines, which is something that I did with regularity. In fact, in the early 1990s, when I started working full-time for the first time in my life, I spent a lot of time every month tracking down every single video game magazine that I could find to catch up on all of the material, everything new that was coming out, read up on all of the new games, the reviews of games, so I knew what was worth buying, what wasn't worth buying. And it was great. It was never felt like an overload of information, but it always felt like a controlled drip. I was given just enough information to go off of to get excited, but not enough information to feel overwhelmed, like I couldn't get everything that I wanted to get, or I couldn't take it all in. Now, one of the things about video game magazines back then is they served as a wall between those who created games and then those who wrote about games, so you kind of work from one side to the other. So you have game creators here, you have writers here, those who review games and write about them, conduct interviews and such. Then you had your magazine, which was the wall. And then you had all of us on the other side, which were the game players, consumers, fans, and we were only given a certain amount of information to work off of. If we had questions about a particular game, there was really nobody to ask. We had to make assumptions based on the material that we had to go off of. Sometimes we would go off of rumor columns, such as from Quarterman in EGM, if you guys remember that. Now, when the internet came along and started to be adopted more and more widely, we still didn't have the level of access that we have now. Although video game magazines started to move from print to digital, and we had a little bit weaker of a wall where we could talk to video game editors or writers through email or sometimes through chat, if you guys remember those kind of chats. We still didn't have access or complete access to those who made the games, who gave us all of the entertainment that we were able to enjoy. So fast forward, at least in my case, to 2008 and a service called Twitter. Now, I didn't know what Twitter was until the period that I was working for a website called Games Are Evil, and my editor-in-chief there, his name is Jason, now is a contributor for Forbes online, and also an awesome person, very driven. Jason had mentioned to me that I should sign up for this Twitter thing and kind of take part. This is where everyone was going. I should do it. So I did. This was during the early summer of 2008, I believe. And I was just getting my feet wet. And when I look at the archive of what I was writing about, I really had no idea. It was basically a glorified Facebook or MySpace. This is what I'm doing right now. This is what I'm doing tomorrow. I played this game. I like that game. And it's funny, even as far back as late 2008, I was griping a little bit about downloadable content, so go figure. But a funny thing happened in 2008, and especially 2009 forward, in that I could actually talk to a lot of the people who made video games that I enjoyed, or people that wrote about them who influenced or inspired me the most. I've had a chance to talk to writers who heavily influenced me and really pushed me to enter writing to begin with, which was mind-blowing that they would even take the time to talk to me. but also to people who develop the games too. If I had questions about a specific game, sometimes I would be floored by a response from an actual developer or someone on a development team who replied back and either thanked me for my feedback or had an answer, and it was all instantaneous. And it was just for someone who had started with magazines and getting just a certain amount of information once a month. This was just this was mind-melting stuff. To have this almost like an open door policy, granted it has to be at the other party's time frame and whether they have the ability to answer a question or not. But that kind of access was unprecedented, at least it was in my view. And that went on for quite a while. But unfortunately, as is the case with a lot of good things, sometimes people take that power and they use it for bad things. Something that we've seen a lot in the within the gaming press and even within the game development community, especially over the last couple of years, has been misuse of social media to threaten, to violently criticize, to do really despicable acts to people that they don't agree with or people that are doing things that they don't like. And that's just unfortunate. It's tragic, to be honest, because a lot of these people, I think, or at least I hypothesize, don't remember what it was like before we didn't have this access, when it was just a certain amount of content every month and that's all we got. And we never got to ask questions. We never got to talk to the developers, at least on any kind of direct level, like social media gives us the opportunity to do. And it's very disappointing to know that more and more members of the video game industry are thinking they're going to leave either Twitter behind or put their tweets under locks and privacy. And I know that I'm not making a lot of streaming sense, but it's that disappointing to me where I can't even get my thoughts out in a coherent way. Because I remember what life was like before, when I was excited about so many different games and how I always had questions that I wish I could have asked, but you just didn't have the opportunity to do that back then. You took what you were given and you were happy with it. It's a lot like Grumpy Old Man from Saturday Night Live. You know, because we liked it. That was the way it was. We took what we got because we knew that was all we had. But now in this day and age, with technology where it is, with social media where it is, with so much opportunity out there to be in conversation with the people that give us the entertainment and create the entertainment that we enjoy, I don't understand why we want to throw that away, why we want to put on the tough guy act and belittle or threaten or make people feel unwanted or unwelcome or scared in the online world. It doesn't make sense. And I'm hoping that in some small way that this video it illustrates a point, that we don't know how good we have it right now in terms of access to the people that create our games that we like and the people that write about the games that we enjoy, that they have so much insight to share. It may not be insight that you and I would agree with necessarily, but it's insight that's important nevertheless. Many of these people have experience that we don't have for whatever reason. Whether you think that they deserve it or not, the truth of the matter is that they're in that spot, they earned that spot, and they have experience that they can share with us if we're willing to give them the time and the civility to do so. So the next time that you're online, that you're on social media, you're not going to be able to stop everyone from behaving badly, and I certainly would not expect that. But what I would challenge you to do is this. When you're talking to somebody on social media, whether it's a developer or a writer, or whether it's just a friend or someone that you've been in contact with frequency, be nice. Instead of saying the first thing that comes to mind, think it through. Think about how it sounds first, especially if you know that it's something that may sound harsh to begin with. And then don't censor, but edit. Make a couple of changes here and there. Don't tell someone that their game sucks or that they should die for making this game, but instead, I didn't like because. I wasn't a big fan of this because. You have 140 characters. It's possible. You can separate it into different tweets, or if you're doing it on Facebook, you certainly have many more characters to deal with. But strive to be better people when it comes to social media. It's a challenge and it shouldn't be. It should be something that comes to mind naturally. But we need to do this because if we don't, that wall is going to come right back up, and then the people that you're used to talking to, developers, publishers, community managers, and writers, will be on one side and we will be back on the other. So consider that. Thanks for watching this episode of Consolation, everybody. As always, I really appreciate it. Be good to yourselves and to each other, always. And I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.